Mansa's children think that I'm some sort of a villain. If anything, I'm just a poor victim.
I feel like Lord is very cruel. What you're doing, capitalize on people that have been abused.
What hurts me the most, his children, just not understanding and believing what happened. They're in total denial. If it had not been for my efforts, I think the children would still be in that situation today or even dead.
If Laura was truly a hero, she would have done something to stop the abuse. She's a liar, a manipulator, and she's an abuser just like my father.
Happy Saturday.
What's up, everybody?
What's up?
Yeah. What up? What up? Yeah, we decided to do Saturday because it was busy yesterday, but also get some little rest.
Yeah.
But
work.
Yeah, work, some stuff we was doing. And today we're gonna be doing our brother's testimony and everything. My brother Mike. And we're not gonna talk about all the graphic stuff, but we'll let you know, as Crystal reads the transcript. And it's just a lot too. It's a lot that's going on in these transcripts in his testimony. It's just a lot going on. So you ready, Crystal? I mean, if anything you want to add before we get started, because I know you wanted to say something.
The clip you showed, I had never seen that clip before, but pretty much what she was saying is that she's disappointed in us because she said we all are still in denial, and none of us are in denial about what happened amongst all four of those adults. We're able to differentiate between Laura, our father, our mother, and Adrian, and ourselves. We're able to tell what actually happened. So that's Amber Wood. She says, I'm ready for this. Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so she's saying that they're in denial, and that hurts her. I really don't care what hurts her, because the thing is, she was an enabler to everything that was going on in the house. And then she said, we want to paint her as a villain. You most definitely are a villain. And like Mike mentioned, that she was an abuser, just like our father. And she was.
I just created another comic sketch and I sent it to you. It was crazy, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that out so everybody can see it.
Yeah, especially with the Iron Fist. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, because Dad said he ruled Iron Fist up in court, right? So I created another. So I'm gonna put that out later, probably today or tomorrow. Y'all see that? It's crazy.
Yeah. So we're gonna get into our brother Michael Bodie's transcripts. And
before you start, I want to remind everybody, even though he's on the stand, he's testifying the stuff that happened to when he was 14, 15, whatever. He was only weighing 56 pounds.
Yeah.
And he looked like he was 10 or 9.
10
so
or
y'all
11.
got 10 at least. So y'all gotta remember this. Remember this as he's testifying, So yep.
Right. And so we're going to get into his testimony, and then I know it's going to be a part 2, because
we definitely,
and a lot of the stuff in it is graphic, so we're going to skip a lot of the stuff in it. Certain stuff we're not going to talk about because it gets graphic, and so we're not going to do that. And then also, just to make it clear to everybody, we're not here defending Musa at all. Talking about Laura is not a defense mechanism for Musa at all. We're telling the audience what each adult did in the home, what occurred, what happened, when, where, and why, and how it happened.
Yeah, and we talked about all the adults in the home. We did Adrian. We talked about our mom a little bit, but we got to get to her testimony. And we're gonna do Musa's gonna be the last one, but we talk about everybody. All the adults, basically. Yep.
Right. So, I'm thinking in my head, which I know that he's watching us, because of a lot of things that I've heard and things that I've seen. And he's not victims of his children. That's what he states. He's not. He's delusional. That's what he is. And, like I said, he did what he did. He's being punished for what he did. He's incarcerated. This is us, like we stated many times before, dissecting true facts, bringing factual information to people
Mm-hmm.
with receipts, you know.
Yeah.
So this isn't this is not in any way defending him at all. So if he thinks that, if he's watching, just making it clear, no, none of us, none of your children are defending you at all, period. And for Laura as well, you most definitely are a villain, and you was an enabler. And when you lied to social media and you put out all these false um, narratives of
Mm-hmm.
stories, you are in those transcripts. I'm going to say that all of us testify against her, along with two doctors, a psychologist, and three social workers, plus a couple of family friends and neighbors testified against her. She was
Mm-hmm.
her own witness
Yeah. She was her own witness.
case. She was her own witness because her kids, they only said things that she told them. And so in these while researching these transcripts, she's mentioned in about 65 to 75%
Mm-hmm.
of these transcripts as an abuser. So when she said
Exactly.
that she was never mentioned and that she didn't do anything, she did plenty. And she's mentioned. So to the lady that was on TikTok, I think her name was Royalty, she's
Mm-hmm.
stating that yeah, you guys should have jumped him. How can kids that's 56, 50 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
um, less than 60 pounds, 80 pounds, um, 40 something pounds jump a 200 and well, how much do you weigh? About 200 pounds, between
Yeah, he was a yeah.
190, 200
Mm-hmm.
pounds. How could we jump a man like that? How could we
And,
do
and
that?
plus, and
We
plus,
was
he wasn't
conditioned,
feeding y'all, and y'all was weak. You had enough strength to
yeah,
overpower him.
yeah, that we should have jumped him. How could we do that in that position, being brought into we're telling you, like some of our siblings stated, you stated it too, Rick, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
stating it right now, out of the womb being
Mm-hmm.
conditioned to something like that. How do yeah, he turned this back, and the thought didn't come across any of our heads, hey, jump him, do this, do that. You're not thinking that at all. You're not thinking any of that. All of us was defenseless, and we couldn't help ourselves. Even when we stated several times, social workers came in the house, police came in the house, nobody told. You know why? Because every time a child ran away from home to try to get help, they was brought back to the home, and the authorities took his side. So it was like we was damned if we do, damned if we don't. We couldn't win at all. It was no winning at all in
And
our situation.
I want to say, it's like we've been saying this multiple times. That letter didn't save anybody. So people on social media keep saying, "Well, she wrote that letter to save you." That letter didn't save nobody.
The letter
And
didn't save us.
we've been showing that. We've been explaining, showing that. Yeah.
Yeah, the letter didn't save any of us because you know why? She wrote the letter, but she wrote the letter to protect herself. She wrote the letter. In the letter, she wrote that she was a victim to all of this stuff. And in these court transcripts, it's showing us that she lied. She was not a victim to anything. And I mean nothing. She was not a victim. What she was doing, she was playing on victims like she's doing now, in
Mm-hmm.
the media. She's playing on victims. That's what she's doing. And she's comparing herself the same way she compared herself to us. She compared herself to Amanda
The
Berry.
Barry, Michelle Knight.
She compared herself to Michelle Knight. And then she also used, I'm going to say, Tamron Hall's vulnerability to being a victim of she had a sister
Mm-hmm.
that was trapped in a abusive relationship and died. And then Laura made a comment that if she wouldn't have wrote the letter, all of us would have been dead. Well, first of all, you came into the home and you told Mr. Terry Crumpton on Hollywood in the Hood that you went in
With your
with your
eyes wide
eyes
open.
wide open, and you said that you was willing to make a relationship work. How sick did that sound?
And
That
she
you're married, yes, and you got your own family, but you're willing to make an adulterous relationship work with a man that has a wife of
but they're
22
using
years
but they
and
were using
13 children.
Islam. Islam was their excuse for doing that. They're trying to use
Islam
that.
was all of their excuses
Yeah.
for doing it because, somebody said on TikTok, oh, the Muslim religion did it. No, they don't. No, they don't. And you need to do some serious research and you need to ask those questions, but you just can't say, "Oh, the Muslim religion they treat their families that way." They don't at all. So,
Mhm.
in getting into these transcripts, the clip that Richard you just played, it's gonna show that when Laura says that she was a poor victim, you weren't a poor victim, and you most definitely was a villain.
Yes.
You was an enabler, and you was a accessory to the things that was going on in that home.
And
That's what you was.
it's gonna show when you read those transcripts of what Mike is saying.
It most definitely gonna show.
Hmm.
So if you want to get
Hmm.
into it right now,
Yeah, we can get into it
we
right now.
get into it
Yeah.
now because so we have the packet here. It's a
Hmm.
lot. So um, we're gonna start with Michael being sworn in first. And he's asked, okay, so he's being cross-examined by Miss Baldwin, and so
Okay.
he's gonna be asked. Would you say?
Yes. Okay. Yep.
Okay,
Hmm.
so he's being cross-examined by Miss Baldwin, who's the DA, the woman that worked for the state. So he's being cross-examined, and she states to him, "Good morning, Michael," and he says, "Good morning." She says, "How are you doing?" He says, "I'm doing fine." And she says, "You come from a big family, right?" And he states, "Yes, I do." She says, "Okay, how many brothers and sisters do you have?" He says, "From my mother." He says, "It's 14." And so she says, uh, "From my dad, it's 16 altogether." So he's a little bit off with the math because
Yeah.
it's 13 of us with our mother,
Yeah.
but our mother lost a child. So without counting that one, there was 13 children. And with our father having two children with those other two women, he has, not our mother, but he
Yeah.
has himself a
Two
total
other.
of 15,
Yeah.
15
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And she asks him, "And do you see your dad here in the court today?" And he says, "Yes." And she says, "Can you tell us where he's seated and something he's wearing?" And Michael states, "To the right of me, wearing a very loose shirt at the top, it looks like." So Ms. Baldwin made the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant. And so the judge says, "Yes." So Ms. Baldwin says, "Thank you." So she says, "Michael, how old are you?" And he says, "I'm 23." She says, "Okay. And you lived with your dad up until what age?" He said, "I believe up until I was 14 or just about almost 15. And your biological mom, her name is," and I'm not going to mention the name blank.
Hmm.
And so he says, "Yes." "Do you also call her by another name?" He says, "No, I just call her my mother." "Okay, do you also have a Muslim name?" He says, "Yes." "And what is that name?" And I'm not going to mention that name, so blank. "And are you still a practicing Muslim today?" He says, "Yes, I am." And she says, "Okay, can you tell me where was it that you were born?" He says, well, he was born in another state, so I'm not going to mention that as well. Okay. "And then how long did you live in that state. He said I was very young. I probably was maybe like 5 once we moved. Actually, he was younger than that, a whole lot younger. That's correct, right, Rick?
Yeah, I think he was a little younger than that by the time. Yeah.
Yeah, he was very young. Um, he says we moved from one state when I was young. I remember, and I was moving when I moved when I was about 5 or 6, but it was actually younger than that. He just probably putting together um
Yeah.
much based off of what he remembered. What where did you come from, blank? We lived in Bakersfield, California is where we went. Okay, and you were in Bakersfield for how long? He said I say about 3, 4 to 5 years. Okay. And when you were in Bakersfield, by the time you guys moved from another state to Bakersfield, California, how many kids were there in the family? He said, my brother Christopher was the youngest, and he's like uh 10. He was like 10 at the time. Um, that's what I remember. She says, okay, how many children moved to Bakersfield, California? And so he says, Christopher was the baby at the time. So there was about 11 of us, which is correct. And you moved where? He says Bakersfield for a couple of years. And when you came to Riverside County, is that right? You guys moved into an 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartment. He says yes. She said, you came to Riverside County after Bakersfield, right? He says yes. And she said, did you guys move around a lot in Riverside? He says yes. We moved around a lot. Okay, I'm going to have to ask you a few questions about some things. I'm sure they are very personal. And he says yes. She said, but it's very important. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about what you remember about growing up with your dad. And he says, okay. She states, do you remember when you were living with your dad, with your father, whether you had enough food to eat? And he says, um, yes, I remember. She said, did you? He said, no, I didn't have enough to eat, not enough as a kid. She says, okay, can you give us an example of what kinds of foods your father would provide you with to eat? He says, basically, the food that we would take, basically, the food he would take and give to us when I would eat and me and my siblings would eat would hardly be anything. I Unfortunately, there was times that we didn't eat for 3 to 4 days at a time, and sometimes longer, depending on if we didn't get up, depending on if we did something wrong, apparent to him. Whenever it was that we did wrong in his eyes or his sight, that we didn't need to eat, he would add maybe about 3 more days on there if we did something wrong in between. So sometimes it would be maybe like up to a week we wouldn't eat something. Okay, and what kinds of things would your dad withhold food from you for doing? Numbers of things like not getting up, cleaning our rooms, not praying, not studying our Quranic verses, watching TV behind him and my mom's back without their permission. He would also discipline us if Laura caught us stealing food. She would run and tell our father that we stole food from her, and that would get us beat. Okay. Um, my and we would also get in trouble as well because he wanted us to watch our mother. He would feel like my mother was cheating on him doing certain things. Just a number of things we got punished for. Now he's
First of
stating
all,
in here.
mhm. First of all,
He stated.
holding food. Oh, hold on, holding
Hmm.
food for a whole week. That's
Hmm.
wild.
Yeah, but he's
That's
stating in here
crazy.
a list of things, and those are just some of them. What he's stating here, but he's stating in here a list of things that was going on. Why children now? this is really serious, because why are children being punished for not remembering Quranic verses? That's not even Islamic. Why are children being punished for watching TV behind their parents' back? You know, why are children being punished for Laura telling our father, "Oh, they stole some food"? Why are children being punished for that? Why are children being punished for not watching our mother? Our mother's a grown woman. We don't need to watch her. It's her job to watch us. So I'm just saying, just the stuff that he's listing that children was being punished for is bizarre. It's really bizarre. Okay, so I'm gonna go on. Okay, what's the longest period of time that you remember going completely without food? Michael said, I'd say about a week. And when did he start starving you? How old were you when you remember your dad starting to withhold food from you for long periods of time? I know I was very young, but I can't give a specific age, but I know I was very young. It was before I was a teenager, long before I was a teenager. Okay, do you think it would be before you came to Riverside? Oh yeah, it was definitely before I came to Riverside. He was starving me and all of my sister and brothers. And did you all know Laura Cowing before you all came to Riverside? No, we did not know her. So you all were being severely abused before you met Laura Cowing. Is that correct? Yes. So while you were still living in Bakersfield, um, you were still being abused. Yes. Yeah, it started in Bakersfield. Really roughly, I remember I was young at the time. We moved from one state to Bakersfield. That's where it started at. Okay, now was it just you that your dad would withhold food from as well? No, it would be all of me and my sister and my brothers. All of us got in trouble for things for nothing. All of you guys, correct? Yes, all of us. Okay. And would that be for long? And would, oh, excuse me. Okay. And would that be for as long as you had said it happened to you, about weeks? Yes. In addition to withholding food from you, what other kinds of things would your dad do to you when you had maybe missed your prayers, or did your prayers late, or not gotten up on time, or not done your chores? You said what kind of things he had done in the beginning, but I'm wondering, what other things did he do? Just what I stated, that the things that he would do in the beginning. To you, besides that, we had talked about withholding food from other children. Yes, besides the food, we might get hit on our knuckles or our feet, or stand in corners all night long, or sometimes position on walls. We spread our hands and legs at the same time, maintaining the position. When we moved, he would hit us. Just a number of things on top of that he would do. Okay, well, let's talk about one of the things that you discussed. You just said that you would get hit on your knuckles. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. How would he hit you on your knuckles? He would make us ball our knuckles up like this. See? Make you ball your knuckles up, and he would hit you on your knuckles. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. And how would he hit you on your knuckles? He would make us ball our hands up like this, and he's indicating it. And he would hit us on our knuckles with a paddle. Okay. And I'm going to show you something right here, Michael, in Exhibit 5. Can you see that? Yes. So the judge is stating to the jury, and he said, let the record reflect that he's balling up his hand in a fist, like I was showing you a few minutes ago. And Ms. Baldwin states, and extended it out. And then Mr. Morales, he objects, and he says, Mr. Morales, do you agree with how Michael Bodie has his hand positioned? He says, yes, his right hand is correct. Okay, so then Miss Baldwin proceeds. She says, when he hit your knuckles, would it be one hand at a time or both hands together? And Michael states it would be one hand at a time, and then he would make us all, he would make us all stand there and go down in a line and hit all of us on our knuckles. He would start off this way, and then he would make us open our hands up to the palm and hit us on the palm of our hand as well. Okay, and that would all happen in one sitting. Yes, when he would make us line up. Okay. At one time, yes, he states, would he first make you do the fist? Yes, he would. And then he would make you open up your palms. And he says, yes. And then after he had been, and then after he was finished hitting you on your fist, you would have to turn your hand around and open your palm up. Is that correct? He says, yes. Okay. I think you described what he would hit you with when he did that as a stick, right? He says yes. She says, this is what's been previously marked as People's Exhibit number 24. Does this look familiar to you, Michael? He says, yes, very familiar. She says, is this the stick that you're referring to? He says, yes. Okay. And when he would hit you on your knuckles with a stick, how many times would he hit you in a row? And Michael states it would depend on how many times we made him miss. He would have us hold it out, and he would hit it as many times as he could. And if you put your hand down and you missed, he would add 2 to 3 more hits at a time. Within that period of time, it would just be one hit that he would miss, but he would add 2 to 3 more hits on top of that for that one hit that he missed to make up for him missing your hand. Okay, so this would go on for quite some time. He says yes. What's the most that you remember receiving in a row? Michael states in the day we probably got beaten probably like 3 to 4 times a day.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. All right. And would it be the same way when he would extend your palms out? And he states sometimes it would, or it would be we would have to take off our. Okay, excuse me. I'm gonna stop right there.
Now you could, I mean, he would tell them, well, I know go in the room, whatever, but take their clothes off, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. We would have to take off our blank, and he would make us lay on our belly and just put our feet up, and he would hit us on our feet with that same stick. And then we would get hit in the faces sometimes if we moved, or on the bottom of our foot. And who was present when he would make you all remove your blank? And you know what I'm talking about, Rick, because we talked about this.
Yeah.
Laura was present during those times, and she saw it. And what would she do? She would just stand there and watch us and walk past us and walk back and forth past us and continue to watch us. And at sometimes when some of us would look at her, she would have a smirk or a smile on her face. Okay, do you remember specifically having your feet? See, Julie skipped what he said.
Yeah, she don't want to hear about Laura at all.
She asked him a question, but she didn't elaborate on why was she present when you didn't have on your blank, because you weren't supposed to be there. Okay. Why was she present, and he's describing the smile, and the smirk that she had on her face. So Julie skips that, and she doesn't go into detail about, okay, let's elaborate on that. She skips it, and she goes down to, okay, do you remember specifically having your feet hit with the stick? Didn't she already ask him that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he says yes. She says, okay. And you described it as having to lay down on your stomach with your feet extended. He says yes. She says, okay. And how many times in a row would he hit you on your feet with this? He says, as many times as he wanted. And if we made him miss, it was the same thing, like when he would hit us on the palm of our hands or our knuckles. Okay. And after he would hit you on your feet, were you able to stand up? And he states no. He will make us stand up, though. Was it painful? He said it was very painful. Did your feet ever bleed as a result of being hit by your dad with this paddle? He says yes. There was a lot of us who had bleeding feet or blisters on our feet. And how long would your feet be sore after a beating like that? Maybe sometimes a week. You could still feel it after a week. And what about your hands? Did your hands ever bleed as a result of being hit? All of our hands would be swelling up our knuckles, and then our knuckles and the palms of our hands would turn purple or a blackish color. And did that happen a lot? Yes. Mm. Now, when you would be getting hit with this on your hands or feet, was it just you that would get hit? No, my other brothers and sisters, all of us would get it that way, all at the same time. Okay. And sometimes it would just be you, but sometimes it would be everybody. Most of the times it was all of us. Okay. So then then the judge states to Miss Baldwin, I think at this time we'll take our noon recess, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take our noon recess. We'll reconvene at 1:30. And he tells Michael to remember you are still under oath. So we're back, and after the afternoon, and he's back on the stand. So she says, Michael, before we broke for lunch, we were talking about some of the things that had happened to you when you were growing up, right? He says, yes. She says, okay, and we talked about the boat oar, which has been identified by you as People's Exhibit 24, which was used to hit your hands and your feet. Is that correct? He says, yes. And that of some of your siblings as well, right? He says, yes. She says, okay, is this the only thing that the defendant would hit you with when you were growing up? He says, no, it was not. Can you tell us what else he would hit you with? He would hit us with extension cords, with switches, belts, belt buckles, really big belt buckles, like his waist belt that he exercised with that had a buckle on it, and pretty much whatever he could get his hands on. If he didn't have that or anything else, he would punch us or slap us in the face. And we got it all the time. He would just slap us around all the time. Now, you know who said that?
Who?
Laura.
Oh yeah, that's right. But she used
That
everybody's
Musa had
testimony
a
though.
habit of slapping me around all the time. Okay. And you said at some point you would be forced to take off your blank. You know what I'm talking about. During these beatings. Yes. Would any of these beatings leave scars on your body? Yes. Are these scars that you still carry today? Yes. I still have a lot of scars on my body today. Where at? On my hands, on my back, on my neck, on my back of my thighs, on my buttocks, on the side of my face. Okay, you said that you were hit with something called switches. Yes, off the tree, like a branch off the tree. He says, yes, a branch. Basically, we called it switches. Okay, now you said that when you were living in the house in Awanga, how old were you? Do you remember? Probably around 14. And a little bit after that time, that's when you got taken and went to a foster home. Is that correct? Yes. So I was probably right about around 14, almost 15, like that. Okay. And at 14 years old, had you ever been to school? I had been to school before. I had been taken out of school. How long did you go to school for? I'd probably say I went to school until the third grade, and then our parents started homeschooling us. Okay, and then after third grade, what happened? We stopped going to school. My dad didn't let us go to school anymore. And why didn't your father let you go to school anymore? Because he didn't want people to know that they was abusing us and didn't want them to see noticeable bruises on our bodies. Okay, did he school you? No, not really. Our mom would homeschool us, but they did have certificates for homeschooling. Okay, you don't have any memories from your childhood of doing homework or learning about things. He said, what I learned from my mother, I have a memory of that. She taught the basic things, numbers, alphabets, and things like that in mathematics. What we knew is what she taught us. Okay, when you went to foster care, did you start going to school? Yes, I started going to high school. Do you
Mhm.
remember what grade you started in? I believe they put me, I believe it was the eighth or ninth grade. Okay, let me see who this is. Breaking in here for a minute. Okay, I get it. Yes. Do you remember what grade you started in? I believe it was the eighth or ninth grade. Okay, do you remember were you able to really read or write? I could read and write pretty good, but not as good as I should have been, but I could read and write. Okay, did you have any friends when you were growing up? No, my sisters and brothers were my friends. Were you and your sister and brothers allowed to play outside? No,
But that's not what Laura said. And they got that movie. She had y'all going outside and playing and stuff.
never went outside, and we never played with her. Okay, I get it. I get it. What you mentioned. Okay, so he states, I could read and write some, but not like I should have been reading and writing. But I could read and write. Did you have any friends when you were growing up? No, my sister and brothers were my friends. Were you and your sister and brothers allowed to play outside? No. Who told you that you couldn't play outside? My father told us that we couldn't play outside. Do you remember in any of the houses that you lived in with your dad whether they had basements? Yes. When you were living where? He says when we were living in Bakersfield, there was a basement. So you did not have any basements in the Chola house, the Avenida Dorado house, any Riverside homes, or in the Wanga house. No, there was not any basements. There was only a basement in the Bakersfield house. So why is Laura painting a picture on the Lifetime
Hmm.
movie that she was thrown in the basement? And why is she in different um uh uh uh
Like
on
on my
different podcasts
mhm.
and in different interviews saying that he hung her upside down and put her in the basement and made a hanging mechanism to hang her
Yeah,
upside down.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember what grade? Okay, never mind. I'm going back up. Okay. To your knowledge, did any of the kids ever get put in a basement by your dad? Yes. Who got put in the basement? Marlon, Sharon, Tiffany, Crystal, Curtis, pretty much all of us, but it was mostly Marlon and Sharon. How long would you stay in the basement? It would be a day or two. He would force us in there. Maybe it would almost be sometimes that day until night that I stayed in there. Okay. And why would your father put you in the basement? He would put us in the basement for getting bad grades if we got a D or a F on our spelling test or any type of exam in school. Or if we stole any food or did anything wrong, he would put us in there. Okay. And was it cold down there? Yes, it was freezing cold. Do you remember seeing Marlon and Sharon in the basement? Yes. What would your dad do to Marlon and Sharon when he would put them in the basement? He would tie them up and hang them upside down from the ceiling. It was a metal pole onto a wall, and he would tie them there and pull them up and hang them there. Turn that TV down. And then he states, I don't remember how he did it, but he had some type of pole, some metal pole, and he would hog tie them from their feet up to their hands and hang them upside down and then pull them up and hang them there. Now, didn't we just talk about this, the hanging mechanism?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she went in these
She went and said that dad did that to her.
Yeah, she went in these transcripts and she got this and said this.
Yeah.
This is what we talking about, why people are so confused, because what she's doing, she's taking things that happen to us and she's like painting herself over it. Nah, they didn't exist. Like Marcus said, nah, they didn't exist. This happened to me. I'm gonna take this story over. I'm gonna use this. Like she did with Amanda Berry and Michelle Knight, saying that she was just like them.
She was held captive.
You know, that's what I'm saying to
she got pregnant, and she got pregnant, and she's saying she got pregnant in captivity.
Yeah. Well, that's not what she's going to testify to in her own transcripts.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. We just wait, y'all. Everyone keep following us. You know, we're going to get to, because we're going to go through, like I said, through a lot of testimonies. We're going to get to her. Just keep following us. Yeah.
How long would he leave them there like that? Marlon had been left there overnight upside down, and Sharon had been left there sometimes overnight upside down as well. And when they were in the basement overnight, would your dad bring them food? Oh, no. No access to the bathroom. No access to any bathroom. What about you? When you needed to use the bathroom, were you allowed to? It really would depend on like his mood. I mean, I think we're getting into the turban.
Oh, yeah, the turban. This is very interesting.
It really would depend on his mood. I mean, we would have to use the bathroom in our rooms, you know, into a bucket. Laura said that. Rick.
Yeah. I'm telling
Laura said that. And I remember during the pre-trial hearing that we did, the first one and the second one, the judge said he did not believe that she had to defecate or urinate in any bucket because he said that was not found and there's no pictures of it. But yet she had soda bottles in her room with supposed urine in it. And the judge said, I don't believe that neither, because forensics didn't test it. And he said to him, it looked like it's some type of drink or something. So you don't know who the supposed that she made up urine belonged to. So he said to scratch that. So if you guys go back to the pretrial hearing that we did, part 1 and part 2, you're going to see what evidence was allowed and what evidence was not allowed. So he said it depended. He said, and he would let us go to the restroom. It was like a privilege if we did get to go and use the restroom. Sometimes we did, but most of the times, you know, we would stay in the room and we would use a bucket that was in the closet bedroom. And what would you do with the bucket after? Well, we would empty it out. He would allow us to empty it out. We would let him know it was too full and we couldn't use it. And he would allow us to empty it out into the restroom in the hallway. And did this go on with your sisters as well? Yes, this went on with my sisters as well. And did this go on with any of the adults in the home? No, all the adults were able to use the restroom. And what adults was that was able to use the restroom? My father and my mother and Laura and Adrian. Mostly Laura would use the boys' middle bathroom in the hallway. So you weren't always allowed to empty the bucket out, right? After you had to go to the bathroom. No, sometimes we had to wait because, like I said, Laura would be in the bathroom using the bathroom. You would just keep it in your room. Yes. How was the room situated or the living arrangement set up in the Wanga house for the kids that lived inside? Well, me and all my brothers, we shared a room together, and all my sisters shared a room together. With my mom and dad, they had a master bedroom at the front end of the house. Laura and Adrian's rooms were turned from garages into rooms. Okay, were there other people that joined your family later that were staying in the garage? There was no one staying in any garage. They were garages when we first got there, and they were in the house, but they voluntarily moved out there after my dad and those two ladies decided that they wanted to turn those garages into rooms. Mm.
See, that's Julie that keeps saying garage, y'all.
Yeah, but she trying to trick Mike up on the
Yeah.
stand, and I ain't. This is what I like that it didn't work. Now, you had told us earlier that you and your siblings did not get food on a regular basis. See, she still didn't elaborate when he stated about those garages being rooms, not
Hmm.
garages. She skipped it.
Yeah.
Skipped it again.
But if y'all go back to Adrian when we did that, the third wife that go back to her testimony, she says herself they converted into a room. So if
Mm-hmm.
y'all go back and listen to that,
Yep.
yep.
Now, you had told us earlier that you and your siblings did not get food on a regular basis. Is that right? Yes. On the days that you were permitted to eat, what types of things would you eat? And Mike states he would give us heavy foods a lot of times during the period of times when we would eat. He would allow us only to drink water, maybe out of 2 or 3 of the days. But what he did allow us to eat, it would be a heavy, large potato, um, just like a boiled potato, and some vegetables. That's it. And we would eat a lot of oatmeal and cream of wheat and top ramen. Like, we had like a heavy carb diet. Okay. You never got to eat. We never got to eat like we really wanted to eat. He gave us what he wanted us to have. Okay, do you remember a time, you know who said that?
Who?
See, that's what I'm saying. You know this stuff because she said the same thing, that he would throw food out in the basement and
Oh
give them
yeah.
what he wanted, give us what we wanted.
Yeah, Laura said that
Yeah.
on that
Okay. Do you
one
remember?
of those documentary shows. She said that.
Yeah, we got all the clips. Okay. Do you remember a time where you and your family were staying in a van? He says, yes. Do you know when that was? He said, I can't say specifically like what year or time, but I remember we lived in a van about 2 years. Okay. And where was that? Do you remember where the area was? You would park your van for that 2 years. He, Mike states, we would just park wherever, that it was convenient to park. So I guess we wouldn't know the spot. I didn't know specifically the spot because I was too little. The people that we ran into on their property. We slept on the property, but with me being a kid, I don't recall specifically where we were sleeping at in the van. I can't tell you a specific area where we were at. Okay, do you remember staying on a property that was owned by a person named Homeboy from Outer
Out of
Space?
space. I knew it. I knew it was coming up.
Yeah. Or the man in the black? And he states, yes, I remember that. Okay, that was when you lived in the van. Is that correct? Yes, we also lived in the van there too. Yes, that is correct. We lived there like a good year. Okay, how would that work with all of the kids and the adults when you would live in the van? He states, my dad, he designed it. That's crazy. He said my dad designed it to where like he took all the seats out or whatever, and he had built whatever in the back wherever the seats were. Like I don't really know what you call it, but it looked like a box to me. But we laid on there, all my brothers and sisters, and we would share that overlap on top of each other sleeping. And he would sleep down at the bottom, him and my mom on a comfortable bed on the floor or something. He would get a room he would get a room sometimes for himself, and we would stay there on the property in the van while he would go get a room. And where would he get a room at? He would get a room at the hotel. Where would he get a room at? He would get a room at the hotel for who? For himself. um Wherever it was convenient for him to get a room. I remember him saying he was going to go get himself a room, and he would sleep in a hotel room and leave us in the van. And when you say he would go get himself a room, was that at sometimes was that at somebody's house, or was that like a hotel room? That was a hotel room. He would go get himself a hotel room to sleep in, but leave us on that property in the van. And he would take, and would he take anyone with him? We're gonna skip this one. Hmm.
Nah, you should say it.
Okay. Would he take anyone with him? Yes, he would take my sister, my older sister Lakeisha, with him to the hotel. Okay. Why didn't your mother go to the hotel with him? I have no idea. I just recall all the time, and me and all my sisters recall, and brothers recall all the time. He would take my sister Lakeisha with him. And how long would they be gone? They would be gone up to 3 to 4 days. And why was your mother not present with her husband going to the hotel? Why was your sister going to the hotel with him? I have no idea. But most of the time, it was just him and her that went to the hotel. Who is her? My sister Lakeisha. Now you said that all of the kids would be withheld from food on some occasions. Is that correct? Yes. And that happened frequently. Is that correct? Yes. Did you ever see your dad miss a meal? No, not one time did I ever recall him missing a meal. So he ate 3 times a day, and you and your brothers and sisters had basically nothing. Yes. And how many other people in the home ate? Mostly who I saw eating in the home was Laura and her children, and my father, and my mother ate, but that was rare. And then when Adrian came along, she ate. But Laura and my father were the main 2 people in the home that ate 3 meals a day. And then they would go out to these hot restaurants and get whatever type of food they wanted. And we could all smell it when they brought it back if we were standing in the corner, and they would sit at the table and eat and enjoy food while we starved. Mm. You said that you had stolen food on previous occasions, right? Yes. And would you get punished for that? Yes. In the way that we talked about earlier? Yes. Did you also see, or do you know if your other brothers and sisters had stolen food as well? Yes. I mean, we all lived in the same home together. So everybody that was hungry stole food. I mean, sometimes when we were deprived of food, sometimes one or another might snitch on the other just so we could get food. Like we had to snitch on another brother or another sister so that my father would like us, and then we could get food and sneak it to the other siblings. He would have favorites. He would have favorite ones of us and give the others some food, even though the other one did steal the food. But it would just work both ways. Either way, he had favoritisms. Like, for example, he would tell me and all of my brothers, Marcus, me, Marlon, and Curtis, that we had to keep the ranks tight, that we were the men of the home. But then he would go and have favoritism against all of us. He would strip us of the turban.
Now break down the turban.
Okay, the turban is like what Laura got on her head in that picture
Mm-hmm.
behind, if the audience can see it. So, our father, when he became this so called Muslim, so this is the turban back here, like Laura got on her head. So, when our father became this so called Muslim, he would dress the dress. And like we talked about, is that
Mm-hmm.
you can be in any type of religion you want, but that dress is not gonna actually show the person you are. So I guess showing off, he would wear like all of these metallics around
Mm-hmm.
his neck that said like Allah,
Mm-hmm.
Allahu Akbar, Allah is gracious, Subhanallah,
Mm-hmm.
different Arabic terms
Yeah.
around his neck. So he wore metallics. He wore different rings on his fingers that had different Arabic writings on it. He wore a turban on his head. And he said the turban was to protect his crown.
Mm-hmm.
So the crown is the third eye,
Yeah. Yeah.
supposedly, in the
Yeah.
front of the head. And you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to protect that, and you're supposed to protect your head. So
Mm-hmm.
he would wear the turban, and then he would wear these long, like throbes, like some Iranians do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he was doing when Mike mentioned that he played the role of good dad, and then he had good dad side, bad dad side, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
with the sons, they was good sons, and then they was bad sons. So you had to do what he said to do. And if you did do what he said to do, then you was a good son. And if you didn't do what he said to do, you was a bad son. So for example, those turbans that he had, they was used to control them. Like
Mm-hmm.
Marcus is my favorite son because he did everything I said. But then Mike do something wrong, I'm gonna knock Marcus down in the rank, and Mike, you come on up here and you get a turban.
You get the turban. Yeah.
So it was like a fight for the turban amongst the boys in the home, because that was considered the good son. And I'm gonna tell you, that don't go on in the Muslim religion. That was a game, a head game he was playing. He's played the head game with all 13
Yeah, he
of
trying.
us.
Yeah, he trying to play head game with me when he tried to call me.
Yeah,
He trying to pass me the turban. I don't want the turban.
yeah, because you're the chosen one
I'm the
now.
chosen one
Like I
now.
told you before,
Yeah.
the game, we've been through the game. Me and all your sisters been through the game. All your brothers, we've been through the game. Don't let them play the game on you, because he ain't about nothing. He don't want nothing. He ain't gonna do nothing. Okay? He got the audacity to call you, and he ain't even apologize for what
For
he did.
nothing.
The audacity. I listened to him. I was like, ain't this something? He didn't apologize to his son. He got the audacity to sit up there and talk to you and have not even apologized at all. And then he talks about repentance and forgiveness, and people make mistakes, things happen, but God gonna forgive me. Yeah, you can repent and God gonna forgive you, but you still gonna get a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And it went back to what we were saying. He's supposed to be this so-called Muslim, right?
Yeah.
That submit his will to Allah, and he worships Allah and all that, but he quoting Bible scripture. You know
All the
why?
time.
Because his parents laid that foundation, like you stated.
They
So he
did.
went into that Bible, and he knows
Mm-hmm.
you're
So
supposed to
he's trying to see.
repent.
So what he does, he tries to use that on me, but it don't
Yeah.
work because he know I know scripture. So what he'll play that game.
But he
Yeah.
knows that he's supposed to repent and
Mhm.
apologize. And he knows that when he goes to God and speak to God, he's supposed to actually speak to God about what he did
Mhm.
verbatim.
Yeah.
Not, oh God, just forgive me because I
Yeah. No,
wronged
you
you and I
now you
did
gotta
this.
talk it out. What did
No,
you do? Go to what did you
specifically
do?
say
Yeah.
what you did to your family and your kids, and you want forgiveness, but you're still gonna be punished.
Yeah.
You're still gonna be punished. What did he say? He said that he's not gonna submit. right? He
He'll
said that he'll
die.
die,
Go to hell with his eyes
go to
wide
hell with
open.
his eyes wide open. That's what he said. And he means that because, like we said, he the man that rules,
With the
with the
iron
iron
fist.
fist. Don't nobody tell him, what to do. And he ain't submitting to no man, no
That's why
man
he's
at
still
all.
that's
So
why he's still locked up.
So what
Yeah.
Mike is explaining in his testimonies transcripts is that he's playing games with them, like, oh, you the favorite son.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do something that's honorable or favorable to him, then he'll let up on you. And it was a privilege. The word he used, it was like, hey, I'm giving you the privilege because you did something right. So I'm giving you the privilege to wear this turban. I'm giving you the
Mm-hmm.
privilege to eat. I'm giving you the privilege to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, you know.
Like Mike said,
Okay.
it's like a
And then he talks
concentration
about
camp.
the adults.
Mike said one of his videos it was a concentration camp. Like, so
It
as you read
was.
and
It
tell, yeah,
was. It was
yeah.
was. It was. Repeat after me this.
Mm-hmm.
Repeat after me that. Recite this. Recite that. Face the wall. Get down on the floor, give me 20. Get on the wall, give me 20. Stand in the corner and you stay there all night. That's what it was. You talking about being in the military. Shoot. When he mentioned militarized,
Mm-hmm.
shh, he was right about that. That's exactly what he was doing. Exactly what he was doing. But I never seen somebody that want to hurt somebody so much, but when somebody do something to them, they can't take the heat. But you want to
Mm-hmm.
hurt somebody so much. This is a man that did things from, a child and was told about it and don't listen to nobody. And now he's incarcerated and he calls himself victims of his kids. And he lies on the sheriffs and they're saying that the sheriffs said, oh, you're victims of your kids. This is what he believed. Know why? Because everybody got sick of him. Nobody's doing what you say. Everybody got sick of him. And then not just that, you want to play the gaslighting and blame game. You want to go outside of stuff. Well, we're going to get into that later after we finish
Yeah,
this because I want to move on with that.
because he's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes we haven't talked about what's going on right now, but we'll get to that one day.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said that you had stolen food on previous occasions, right? Yes. And would you get punished for that? Yes. In the way that we talked about earlier, right? Yes. Did you also see or do you know if your other brothers and sisters had stolen food as well? Yes. Okay, I think I went through this one already, so I'm going to skip this. Okay. Well, when we would fight each other, he would make us fight each other always. He would let me and my brothers fight one another. And if we weren't doing it the way he approved of, he would have all of us jump each other. Did that happen a lot? Yes, a couple times it happened. Did any of the siblings get injured during these group beatings? Yes. And who was present when these group beatings was happening? Laura and my father. Were any of the other adults in the house present? No. Most of the time when we were getting beatings, Laura was always present. She was either walking back and forth from her room to the kitchen or she was sitting at the dining room table eating. And did Laura watch you guys get busted up and beat bloody? Yes. We would have bloody noses and busted up lips. And sometimes some of the kids had black eyes and our teeth would fall out. And while you were beating each other up, what was your dad doing? Him and Laura was sitting there watching us. Okay, but I'm not talking about Laura. And so Mr. Morales objects because she asked who was sitting there watching, right?
Exactly.
But when he mentioned Laura was sitting there, she said she's not talking about Laura. But then Mr. Morales objects, and the judge says the jury can add that. You asked the question, Ms. Baldwin, who was present, and he answered the question. So we're going to stand by that. Okay. She would be standing there watching us, just standing right there watching us. because if we didn't do what he was asking us to do and she saw us, she would run back and tell him. And were there times when your dad would step into the group beatings and stop it? Yes, when he wanted to. What would he do? Just discipline us the way he felt we should be disciplined if we didn't do it right. Do you remember during any of the times where you were living with your dad, whether he would have visitors over at the house? Yes, he had visitors over at the house. He had a friend that would come over sometimes and visit. But when he came over to the house, he would have me and my brothers escort him to the bathroom. And who was this friend? This was my dad's friend, Hanif. And he would have me, Marcus, or Curtis escort Hanif to the bathroom. And then we would have to stand outside the bathroom door and watch him and escort him back outside. And at any time that Hannah see your father ever abuse you and your siblings? No, never, because in front of Hannah, he played good dad.
Hmm. Hmm.
hmm
Hmm.
This is what Mike testified to, that in front of Hannah, that he
Mhm.
played good father
Hmm.
and he played like we were good sons. Would he treat you differently than other people when other people were around in the house? Oh, yes, he always did that. He played the family part like he was a family man, and that we had perfect sisters and there was perfect brothers, and he was the perfect father, and my mom was the perfect wife. And did he do this always? Yes. Okay. He would treat me like I'm his son in front of his friends. And what friends was that? He would treat me like I was an excellent son in front of Hannah, Halim, homeboy from outer space, and brother Khalid. He would treat me like that so that they would not know that he was abusing any of us. And then, like me and my brothers, my sisters, they would stay in the room because my father didn't allow them around any men. Like we would normally be sitting out there around his friends, and he would treat us like he was not starving us or beating us. So there was no way of them ever telling that he was beating us up. Boom.
Oh yeah.
hmm he would play like he was just a loving husband and he took care of his children and his wife, but he was really cruel and mean to me and all my siblings and our mother. He would play like in front of Hannah that he was the perfect husband and perfect father. He would tell Hannah, my kids are extremely smart. They know how to speak Arabic fluently, and told Hannah that we were just the perfect kids. Mm, wow. Do you ever recall social workers coming to the house when you were growing up? Yes, a couple times. How would he treat you in the presence of social workers? Very well, the same way I told you that he would treat us in front of his friends. He would make them believe like nothing was going on, so they never knew nothing was going on. When you were living in the Awanga house, do you remember there being a lot of locks and chains around the house? Yes, there was. Can you tell us where you remember seeing locks and chains? Okay. He started putting locks and chains on the refrigerator, um, where the food was at for me and all my siblings. And then he put locks on the cabinets where my mom housed all the food for me and my siblings. And the other side back glass door, he put a lock on that door. Okay. The refrigerator, the cabinets, he put locks on them because we was taking food. And so was this food that belonged to the entire family? No, this was food that belonged to my mom and me and my siblings. Okay? Because the other two ladies that lived in the home, they had refrigerators. And he would not allow us to go in our refrigerators to take food. So some of us would go out to their refrigerators and take their food because he wouldn't allow us to eat. And so he started to put chains and locks on cabinets so we couldn't go into the food. And was he the only person who had the key to these chains and locks? No, he was not. Who had the keys to the chains and the locks? As far as I know, he had the keys to the chains and the locks, and the rest of the adults had them. Well, let me show you Exhibit 25. It's in this piece right here. Does this look like the types of locks and chains that were around the house? Yes. You remember seeing these on the doors? Yes. Were those the same types of locks that were on the cabinets and on the refrigerator belonging to you and your siblings? Yes. Do you remember a time when you were hit in the face with a tree branch? Yes. Did something happen to your eye? Something happened to my face. It came open here on the side of my face. It was bleeding. It was bleeding very bad. And what did your dad do once he saw you were bleeding? He did nothing. My mother attended to me. Whenever we were hurt badly, my mother would attend to us and take care of us. And that's not even true.
Yeah, so might
That's not totally true at all. Mm-mm. Did anyone take you to the doctor? No, he wouldn't allow her to take us to the doctor. No, that's not true either. It was two parents in the house, and she played a big role in the house as being a parent. And like I stated before, one person was not at fault in that house and responsible for 12, 11 kids that was being abused. He was not totally 100% responsible. We had a mom, and she was there. And I'm going to keep reiterating it, that she was there, because it looks bad to continuously keep saying that, hey, he was at fault, he was at fault, he was at fault, because there's people on social media asking these questions. Well, what about your mom? Yes, our mom is to blame.
Yeah. And we said this many times.
He's to blame, and she's partially to blame too, as well. And when Julie Baldwin asked, did he take you to the hospital, it's to pinpoint all the blame on him, and all the blame is not on him. He did a lot of things, and that's without a doubt, and none of us is in denial about that. But mom was responsible too, as well, because she had a duty, because all of us was gifts to her, all 13 of us, and she had a duty to protect all of us. And that's just what it is, plain and simple. Like that. That's what it was. Not just, oh, did he let you go to the doctor? No. Did she take you to the doctor? Because there's two parents in the home, not one. Not one. So both take the blame. Both take the blame. He did nothing. My mother attended to me whenever we were hurt bad, really bad. My mother, she would take care of us. Did anyone take you to the doctor? No, he wouldn't allow her to do it. And he never took you himself. No. In addition to you being physically abused, like you said, like you told us, did your dad also mentally abuse you as well? Yes. How so? I don't think, well, I think maybe we probably didn't know how or what mental abuse was during that time, but we found out by going through therapy what mental abuse was and what he was doing. I guess when the situation happened, when they came and arrested my dad, and we had talked to the detectives and social workers and things, we didn't want to speak, only because we were raised that we weren't supposed to turn against blood. And we was always raised never to go against blood, or we would not be considered as family. So to him, no matter what, you do not tell on family. And so we did not do that. We honored both of our parents, and we did not tell on them when things happen to us. So Mr. Morales says, Your Honor, objection is non-responsive to the narrative. And the judge said he answered the question, so I'm not going to sustain it. You can go on. So Ms. Baldwin says, okay, well, let me pick up where you just started talking, Michael. You said that there was a time in April of 99 when your dad eventually got arrested, right? Yes. Okay. And the police came to your house that morning. Is that correct? Yes. Were you home? Yes. Do you remember what you were doing before they got there? I was about to pray. And what do you remember hearing at the door? Just a loud knock, sounding like beating at the door. Did you go to the door or did you stay where you were? I stayed where I was. And what I do remember, and what do you remember after that loud knock? I remember my dad went to the door. It was the sheriff's at the door, and he had a conversation with him outside for like about 10 to 15 minutes. And he came in and he said he wanted to speak to Laura Cowan. And he took her and went outside. Okay, who took who and went outside? Well, Laura was in the kitchen that morning as my father was speaking to the sheriffs outside for 10 to 15 minutes. And when they asked for Laura Cowan, she walked outside the door. So the doors was not nailed shut or chained. No, they was not. And was the sheriff talking to her? Yes. And then for a few minutes after that, I could just remember my dad getting handcuffs put on him and they were escorting him out. Okay, how did you react initially in April when you first saw him getting arrested? I was hysterical. I felt like he didn't do anything wrong. Okay, so even though you had been through all of these beatings that you just testified to, you still felt like your father didn't do anything wrong. Yes. Okay. We went through how you felt like your father had not done anything wrong. Is that correct? Yes. Why did you feel that he had not done anything wrong? I just felt that way. I felt like, that's what, I felt like. That's the way I was raised. That's the way I came up. That's the
But
way
then,
I
hold on,
was
hold on.
programmed.
But he just explained that to her. Why she keep circling it back around? He just explained it that they live like that. That's
Because
how.
she's thinking that he gonna change his mind. That's why she keeps repetitiously asking him the same thing. Because she asks the question, but each time she asks it, she rephrases it, but she's still asking the same thing.
Mm.
He says, that's just the way I came up. That's the way I was programmed. That's the way I was told to act. That's all I knew. I felt it was just wrong for them to do what they were doing to him because he was not the only person in the house just abusing everyone. There was other adults in the home and Laura was doing things as well. And I didn't understand it then. And when the police officers initially asked you that day whether or not you had been physically abused by the defendant, what did you tell them? I said it wasn't true. And she states, and in fact, you told them none of the kids had ever even been spanked. Isn't that true? And he says yes. And a police officer at the same time pointed out when he had interviewed you, he had played you a segment of a few tapes of you and your siblings being abused. Is that correct? Yes. And what did that tape contain that you heard? I heard my dad on it beating me and all of my siblings. And how many tapes did you hear? I heard several tapes. And did you hear that tape again? Yes. And did you recognize the person who was doing most of the beating and yelling on the tapes? Yes. Whose voice was that? It was my father's. So when she mentioned, here is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
She said, and did you recognize the person who was doing most of the screaming and yelling on those tapes? Did you recognize the person's voice who was doing most of the beating? So I'm wondering what other voices was on those tapes.
Exactly.
But we'll get through. We're gonna get through them though.
Hmm. We're gonna get to all that stuff soon.
Yep. And did you recognize the person who was doing most of the screaming and yelling, or the person who was doing most of the beating on the tapes? Yes. Whose voice was that? My dad's. And did you recognize some of the other people's voices who were in the background? Yes. It sounded like Nikosi, Christopher, Marlon, Sharon, Tiffany, Crystal, me, and maybe Marlon. And what were they doing on the tapes? They was begging and screaming for our father to stop hitting them and that they wouldn't do it anymore. Mm. Like they were getting beaten really bad. Do you remember telling the police officers initially that that was not anybody in your family? That was nobody in your family on those tapes that you could recognize? Yes. Why did you say that? I just said it because I was in denial, I was ashamed, and I was embarrassed to even be listening to anything that we had went through during that period of time. As my brothers and my sisters, we didn't do anything wrong, and I just didn't feel comfortable talking about it. So Mr. Morales, he objects and he states, next question. And she says, do you remember telling police officers, in fact, that you're not going to get me to say anything, even if it is true? Boy, these people just don't get it.
I know, right?
Even if it is true. Yes, I recall saying that. And how long did it take for you to eventually be able to tell the truth about what had happened to you while you were growing up? And Michael states the situation after that, after your dad was arrested, once I was separated from him, I had a chance to get myself together, me and my siblings. We had a chance to be on the outside world and understand the things that was being done to us was not right. So once you got away from your dad, where did you go on that day when he got arrested? I was with my mother until social services had came and we went to a foster home, placed in a foster home. Okay, how did you like your placement in the foster home? I
Now
didn't like it at all.
hold on for a second. Now, dad was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
He got out.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't go into foster care until like a month later. So you're right.
I'll
But that was
say,
after dad, because dad got arrested. He got arrested. He got
mm,
out. Then like a month later, when they came, when he went down there to pay his bill because he wasn't doing whatever, and they locked him up.
mm-hmm.
And then that's when they were taken. Because I know a lot of people in the media, they think that it happened like right then and there. Like all this stuff happened right when Laura claiming the police came and everybody got split right then and there. That didn't
No,
happen.
that didn't happen. What happened is he was arrested April 99. Laura and her daughter, Miriam, was removed from the house.
Mm-hmm.
While they was removing Miriam, Hannah was sitting outside in the car because they told him not to interfere in the investigation. So he was sitting up on that mountain with us, 4,000 feet up in the air. And mom handed her Taz and Taz clothes and all of that. But Taz was screaming and crying. So they hand Taz to Hannah. Hannah came back to the door and gave the baby to mom. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's when one of the detectives told mom that they could not take Taz because dad and Laura was not legally married. And they said that was a family court
Court thing. Yeah.
thing. So that had nothing to do with him getting arrested. So when she stated that he took my baby from me, no, he didn't, because mom freely gave her her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And the baby did not want to be with her for some reason. So they returned her to mom. And so when they returned her to mom, now you got to be mindful of this. They had paperwork on Taz, okay? She signed her daughter over to dad, okay? The paperwork are in the examination of the evidence because I've seen it. I've seen it with dealing with the DA for the last year, going over, records and this entire case. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
telling you, she signed over Taz, not to our mother, but to our father, because like she stated in many of her interviews that her plan was to go back to her husband. That's what her plan was to go back to take her two children that her and her
Mm-hmm.
husband had and to go back to her husband.
And leave Taz
Now,
with dad because that
yeah,
that was her plan.
yeah, and so that kid was given to mom, okay? After that day, he was bailed out the next day on the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
We went back to the house. When we went back to the house, that's when Todd Belanca came out on the 7th, 8th, and 9th and interviewed all of us. Okay. During that time, I think we was in that home for another 3, 4 days. We moved out. And when we moved out, that was about April. I'm gonna say April 11th or 12th. We was out between those times because I don't know the specific dates.
Mm-hmm.
And he went back to jail probably May 22nd, 21st, because
Mm-hmm.
he didn't pay his bond. And those bail bondmen told him after mom had bailed him out and we went across the street because he had to do a consultation. And those bounty hunters told him, they said, Mr. Muhammad, if you run, if you skip your bond, meaning if you don't pay it, they
Mm-hmm.
said we will be coming to get you and you're going back to jail.
So he was out
So
basically. He was out basically a whole month,
he was
basically
out for a
almost
whole entire
a
month.
month. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like I said, when he went back in, I think it was May 22nd, 21st. And when we went to that courthouse in Riverside, what happened is we went because they got different floors in the courts. They got like a floor where you get your restraining orders at.
Mm-hmm.
They got court cases going on some
Mm-hmm.
of the floors. They got a family court. So they got different clinics on different floors. So once they arrested him on the 22nd, 21st of May of 99, then that's when they came out and mom had to go up with us to the next floor. That was family court. So she had to hand Taz over to the social
Mm-hmm.
workers then. That's what happened. So that's how she got a hold of Taz. So the story is not how she's putting it. And when you got paperwork and facts and stuff, you just can't run stuff, off of your tongue, out of your mouth without any facts. That's why it's always good, like we've talked about, to keep a trail of pictures,
Exactly.
keep
Mm-hmm.
a trail of notes, keep a trail of names, dates, times, anything. You ain't even got to have the dates or times, long as you know the location, the time, the person's name, you know, something's going to be figured out, you know. So, a lot of the stuff, like I said, that, we was talking about a few minutes ago, she's stating things that happened. No, that stuff did not happen at all. At
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. I just wanted that to be clear because I know Julie. She's doing a lot of shuffling around.
Yeah, because what she doing, she protecting Laura and not children.
Mm-hmm.
In
Yeah.
this case, she's protecting an adult because she works for the state,
Mm-hmm.
and the state, they can be a kind of dirty with these prosecutors they put out there. They'll tell them, oh, you're gonna get a promotion if you get him arrested, you get him busted. Just worry about winning the case, pretty much. You know, we don't care how people's feelings are hurt or how you ruin families' lives or you separate families and their children and all of that. Uh, just bust him, and get him locked up. And like I said, he's where he's supposed to be.
Exactly.
He's where he's supposed to be. That's 1,000% true. He's where he's supposed to be for things that he did. You know, that's just,
But she should be locked up too for the things that she did.
she should be right in there with him. right in there with him. Okay, so the first time about the third grade, you had went back to school. He said, yes, exactly. Okay, when you were away from your dad from the situation where you had been growing up, is that when you started to realize that the things that had happened to you were wrong? He said, yes, exactly. She said, okay, and do you remember about how long it took for you to be able to come forward and tell the police what really happened? He said it was quite a bit of time. I don't know exactly how long, but it took some time. So your dad, he was arrested in April 99. He says, yes. She says, okay, and do you remember meeting with an investigator from the district attorney's office in about June of 2000? He says, yes. She says, okay, and is that when you started telling the truth? He said, um, I guess about that time, yes. So a little over a year. He said, excuse me, a little over a year. Yes, that's correct. It took you. She said, okay. She said, you have a brother named Marlon, right? He says, yes. She says, did Marlon steal food a lot? He says, yes. Do you ever remember seeing Marlon be punished by your dad?
Yeah, don't worry about it. I just want to show it so people can read it. You can keep going.
Okay. 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 Did you ever see Marlon steal food? Yes. Do you ever remember Marlon seeing do you ever remember seeing Marlon be punished by your dad for stealing food? Yes. Do you ever remember your dad making him eat all the food that he stole? Yes. What happened to Marlon? What do you mean? What I mean is after he ate the food, what happened? Yes, after your dad made him eat everything, what happened? He couldn't eat all the this is what Mike's saying. He couldn't
Mm-hmm.
eat all the food. And if he couldn't eat it all, my dad would make him, you know, he still couldn't eat it all. He would beat him until he ate it all. And he told him, you're going to eat it all. And did he do that? Not all the time. He couldn't eat it all because it would be a lot of food, and that would make him sick. Okay.
And then Marlon said he was suffering from bulimia.
Bulimia. He did.
Yeah,
He did. And we talked
we
about
talked
it
about. Mm-hmm,
when Claire Sheridan, which we haven't read
mm-hmm.
her testimony, we just talked
We
about it.
just lightly, yeah, we didn't go in
Yeah,
depth with
but
it. Mm-hmm,
remember what Claire Sheridan said about children.
mm-hmm,
You can make them have mental disorders and certain
mm-hmm,
type of eating disorders when you
mm-hmm,
stagnate the body. And
mm-hmm.
that's why Marlon suffered from bulimia, because the body, being a child, while the body is trying to,
Grow. Mm-hmm,
yeah, because children's body, they're like plants, they got to be watered. So if you're not feeding the body gets used to not eating. And so when it was time to eat, his body was so programmed to not eating, like all of us. And so the body and the organs in the body was shutting down. And so he
mm-hmm,
would eat because he was forced to eat, but then he would regurgitate the food because the body was telling him, no, you're not supposed to eat the
mm-hmm.
food, because of the form of punishments he was putting on people. Okay. She goes back. Okay, do you remember when you were taken out of the home in April of 99? Do you remember being small? And Michael says yes. Do you remember going to a doctor's office and being examined by Dr. Claire Sheridan? He says yes. When you were placed in foster care, he says yes. Do you remember how much you weighed then? He says no, but I know I was really tiny. She states, Michael, you was 56 pounds at
Mm-hmm.
14, 15 years old. And he said, okay, I wasn't aware of that. Do you remember that? He says, I guess I was, but I don't remember. Okay, how are you doing now? He says, I'm doing very well. Are you going to school still? Yes, except today I'm not in school. Okay, I just have one more question for you. I'm sorry. I know that you had said that you were not willing to talk to the police when they initially came forward. Is that correct? Right. Yes. And to your knowledge, were most of your brothers and sisters feeling the same way? He says yes. So the judge says, objection, Your Honor. That calls for speculations. He says, first of all, none of the Bodie siblings was expected to talk to the district attorney, nor should they have ever been forced to talk to them without any type of legal counsel. And so the
Mm-hmm.
judge said that he's going to allow the jury to hear that. So she says, were you there when your brothers and sisters were talking to the police officers? Mike says, I remember they talked to us, individually. Okay, do you remember at some point though during that time frame that you were actually telling your brothers and sisters not to talk about what happened as well? And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to talk about what happened as
Exactly. They
well
had to.
because all of them was minors and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to. That's just the law and
Nope.
that's the truth. They did not have to talk
Had
if
no
they didn't want to.
representation. Yeah, they had nothing. Yeah.
They didn't, and yeah, he told them don't talk. He didn't do anything wrong telling his sister and brothers don't talk to the police. They didn't have to talk to them. They didn't do anything wrong. They act like they could just run up in somebody's house like gangbusters, take somebody out, and I'm gonna ask you this question. I want you to answer it. I want you to answer now. That it don't work like that. It
No.
don't work like that at
And
all.
everybody was minors. Come on now.
Yeah, you're
And you
talking
got
to
them in, you
kids.
have them in interrogation rooms. You talking to kids and interrogating
And
them
then on
with
top of that, you
with no
lying.
counsel.
You lying to them because from what I can remember is that when we was able to speak and see the minor sister and brothers, they was telling us that they was telling them, oh, tell us this, tell us that. They was telling them they was gonna buy them bikes and buy them stuff and put the family back together and stuff. And so yeah, they was in disbelief. Know why? Because the very same thing, like I stated before, that was going on in our home, the system played the same psychology game
Yep.
on everybody. And that's why nobody wanted to speak about it. Because nobody didn't trust nobody. You know? You gotta look at this. We was being told, look at this, check this out. We was
Mm-hmm.
being told as kids not to trust the police, not to trust
Mm-hmm.
the system, right? But then we
Mm-hmm.
being told by the system, don't listen to your parents, tell on your parents, tell us what happened. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. So it
And
was
they did
games being
nothing
played both
on both
ways.
sides. Yeah.
Yeah. So just like, do you not get it? She said, do you remember at some point though during that time frame that you were actually telling your brothers and sisters not to talk about what happened as well? He says yes. And why was that? He said Mike said it was just a shame. It was embarrassing. We just didn't want to talk about it. We was trained like that. Like I said, I did not want to talk about it under any circumstances, no matter what it was that they wanted us to say about my mom and dad. None of us was going to talk about it at all. Did your dad ever tell you what would happen to you if you did tell the truth about what happened? Yes. What did he say? He would tell us if we told anything that we would die or he would kill all of us. And who did he tell this to? He told it to me and all of my sister and brothers. This is how we was controlled as kids. This was all we knew, is not to go against blood and not to tell on blood, or we was gonna die, or God was gonna punish us, or either he was gonna kill us.
Isn't that what Laura tried to use? Said Musa said he was going to kill her and
She said
her
the same
children.
thing. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did he say that to you on more than one occasion? No, not just on one occasion. He said it all the time. Mm-mm-mm. He said it all the time. My dad would say that. Did he ever threaten you with any weapons? Yes. What did he threaten you with? He had a pistol numbers of times pointed it at me and my brothers and my sisters all the time. I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 18. And when you see it closer on the screen, I want you to indicate what it is. Does that look familiar to you? Yes, that's it. Is this the gun that your dad would threaten you with? Yes. Did he ever threaten you with anything else? Any other weapons in the house? Yes. A machete. When when he would threaten you with that, what would he say? He would say he was going to kill us if you did tell anything on him. And did you believe him? Of course. Yeah, very much I believed him. When your dad was inflicting the physical abuse on you, what was his demeanor like towards you? Was he ever saying anything to you as he was hitting you? I can't remember exactly the things that he was saying. I just was too busy trying to focus on him beating me so that I could get over it and he could be done with it. So I never focused on what he was saying, even though he would yell things. I just wanted to be over with. Okay. And during the beatings, would you be crying all the time? All of us would cry. And do you often ask, and did you often ask him to stop? I asked him to stop all the time, and he never did. No, you could not ask him to stop. And when you did ask him to stop, he would beat you more. Okay, she says, I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mm.
So
That's
that concludes the first part.
yeah. We'll do Mr. Dad's attorney when he gets
Yeah,
up
because we
there
still got
on
half.
part
I
two.
mean,
Yeah.
actually more than half left over. So
Hmm.
we're gonna be running into that Friday. But we had some sidebar notes, and if anybody wanna jump in and ask any questions, you know, you can ask questions. Oh, and I wanted to add this is that while I was reading, um, you know, um, we was talking about graphic things and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I didn't want to say clothes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna mention it now. When I said blank, it was the clothing when he said that, our father would have us to remove our clothing, you know, and he had stated that Laura was there present, during that time. I'm putting it out there that she was present and she seen, all of us naked. So she seen us naked, and she doesn't talk about that. It was inappropriate. That's why I said in these transcripts and things that we lived through, she don't want us to speak about. She want people to believe that she was some type of, like she said, she was just a poor victim,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know, and that's not the case at all. And like I said, she most definitely, was a villain. So I'm going into these notes right now after reading, just to go over some things that we talked about. So this part one of Michael Bodie's testimony live. So, um, the testimonies of actual child victims who lived in the home that is testifying to their experiences and what they saw actually happen are their true stories and the facts and what they went through. There are a lot of misconceptions out there that has made people confused. Um, the word hostage, captivity,
Hmm.
captor,
Kidnap.
and
Hmm.
kidnap was never mentioned in none of the. And we got 8 boxes of transcripts, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, each box has about 15, 16 packets. And I've been through 2 boxes. There's no such word as hostage,
Hmm.
captive, captor, or kidnap mentioned in there. The word rape concerning Lord Cowing is not mentioned in there at all. At all. Nor did she ever testify
And
to
she
being
never
raped.
did a rape kit.
Nope.
And see,
Nope.
that's yeah.
And
And
Detective
we
Zirko
talked about that before. No
specialized.
rape kit. Yeah.
Yeah, but Detective Zirko, if you go back to his testimony that we read about 4 or 5 weeks ago, he testified that uh he specialized in that
And
force,
that's
some type of force task for rape
task force.
victims that
Yeah.
he
Rape
specialized
victims.
in.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I'm wondering to myself, I mean, why won't a rape kit or anything done? You know? Okay, so like I said, the misconceptions that has made people confused is, you know, using the word hostage, captivity, captor, kidnap, stuff like that. I'm like, this stuff never happened. It ain't even mentioned, in the transcripts at all. And I've talked to several DAs. I say about maybe 5 or 6. And then I've been to law libraries, done my own legal research. And I'm just like, this was not even mentioned in this case. Locked in a garage, domestic abuse, those specific things. I'm just like, just was not mentioned. A lot of our testimonies is going to tell people things about Laura Cowling and what she was doing in that house. And like I said, I don't know how she was able to turn herself into this huge victim. I
She did with
really
the help
don't.
with the help
Because
with no, hold on, with the help with Julie, Detective Zirkle, and by them going to
mhm,
the media and they told y'all don't say anything. That's how they began to plan it. And she was doing this from the beginning.
yeah,
Yeah. And they
like
told y'all
like me,
don't speak to the
Sharon, and
media.
Keisha, we stated when we
Mhm.
was up here is that we wasn't going to no media. They was telling us not to go to the media. That's what they were telling us. Don't go to the media, don't speak to them. But guess what? Laura, she was already out there doing uh uh talking to reporters. She was out
Mhm.
there going to newspapers. She went to Press Enterprise, I believe,
Yeah.
in Riverside, because I got the whole 4-page clip. So she was doing that. But I'm just saying, all the stuff that she talks about being held hostage and all that in these transcripts, there's no details, there's no times, there's no places, there's no dates. And the dates that she had, the judge looked at them and he said they was made up. You know why? Because
Mhm.
they was too close to the time where there was reports being reported from her son. Her son Ahmed was reporting her for
Yeah.
abuse that she was doing to him, and he said that the dates that Laura had given them, it was too close to that time.
Yeah. Mhm.
It was too close to that time because of what social workers and police officers and all that, they didn't see that when they came to the home, the stuff that she was saying. And so we making it clear again. We are clearly talking about Laura Cowling. While she has stated she never did anything to us and that she was not mentioned in any abuse, our court transcripts, and not just them court transcripts, but our own story of what we experienced and what we saw, we can speak about it. Okay, we can
Yeah.
talk about it. And there's also documentation. There's police reports
Yeah.
of her doing certain stuff. Okay, there's diaries, there's pictures, you know there's a lot of things that's out there.
She stole that whole diary concept from you.
Yeah, she
Because
did.
you was on the Dr.
Yeah,
Phil
she
show.
did.
When you was
Well,
on
she
Dr. Phil,
steals
you
from all
said,
of us.
yeah, and you
Mhm.
said that hey, you showed your diary. They showed it. Then after the show, she started talking about she wrote a diary.
Yep.
And then, so she's constantly stealing from our family. Every time you look at social media, she's changing her stories. Okay, that happened to you. You got that from Mike. You got that from Crystal. You got that from Sharon, and so forth.
Yep. So, like we were saying before, the court transcripts of our
Mhm.
siblings, our testimony will show she was, in fact, involved as an enabler to all Musa's children continued suffering of his and her different patterns of abuse. She was definitely a part of it. This lady was a willing participant, as she has discussed In her own words to Mr. Terry Crumpton on Hollywood in the Hood interview
Mm-hmm.
that was done July 11, 2011. And I quote, Lord Cowan said she was a willing participant who went in with her eyes open, that she wanted a relationship to work despite her being married herself. She said she was not blinded by anything. She was not misled and she was not tricked, that she knew exactly what she was doing. We also want to make it clear none of us are in any type of way, any type of supporter of Musa at all. All his behavior has been very volatile, controlling, disrespectful, and he has given family members misinformed information for years. He still has not changed. I listened to a recording of him still being in denial and stating that he is the victim again of his own children. And this is how him and Laura's behavior operate. They both got the same behavior. If you compare their behavior, the both of them are narcissists. They're selfish. They have abusive mentalities, especially emotionally. They have it, and verbally, they do. And I'm saying we're sitting up here and we're giving actual receipts. We're
Mm-hmm.
giving dates, times, years,
Yeah.
incidents.
Mm-hmm.
We telling you when and where and how and why this stuff happened. We giving pure facts. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, part two of the next portion of our brother's testimony will give a lot of confused people who have watched this movie insight on how our story was manipulated to create a false narrative of this Lord Cowing stuff. This stuff is crazy. It is
Yeah.
crazy. And just to make it clear to everybody, like I said, my family and I, we've been used for over 20 years by this lady. And those are the facts. Those just are the facts. Those just the pure facts. And then get
Yeah.
into Musa,
Yeah, there's
um,
some the
just
back.
to talk a little bit.
He's be like I said, yo, he's calling me, but I'm to the point I don't want to speak to him. I was trying to get him just to interview him to speak on just Laura because, like I said, he cannot speak on his children. He can't talk about them, or they'll his calls and stuff. They're monitoring his calls. He can't do it, but he'll call. He calls me. He say little slick stuff. So I don't want to say everything because Crystal we handling some stuff, but he's saying a lot of slick stuff in the
Mhm.
conversation. So I'm to the point where like
Well, yeah. Well, one of the things he did is that when I was listening to it, what I don't like is that he says stick by family, deal with this family member, deal with that family member, talk to this family member, but he don't know that. I mean, well, he does know. He don't care. Yeah, your family's with everybody, but the thing is that you don't have to put up with nobody's crap. You're entitled to have your own peace, in your life. You don't have to live like that.
mm-hmm.
You don't have to live like, oh, I'm just going to live up under this person's mental illness. I'm going to live up under their crap of being abusive and disrespectful to me all the time and wanting money all the time, want to run in and out of my home all the time and have me upset. You know, families are families, but sometimes families need their peace away from each other. You can love people from a distance and still live your life and be happy, you know? And, he talks this stuff about family. I noticed that's the one thing. He talks this stuff about family all the time and that things happen and do such and such no matter what. It's not no matter what. There's things that's wrong that you don't allow, people to do to you, you know? And he's done some things that it's just not allowed anymore, that he can't do it. But then he goes back, and what he does, instead of focusing on taking those classes and doing what the state board told him and what them commissioners told him, you know what his focus is on? His focus is still on his kids.
Yep.
I done heard it. And if it ain't on his kids, he's picking at Hannah all the time.
Yes.
He's picking up Hannah all the time. It's some stuff legally that's taking place, the stuff that he did recently. And he watches this podcast, and I know he watches it because of things I've heard him say out of his mouth. And if he's not watching it, we know the ones that's giving him information. There's a couple people getting them information. I'm not going to say their names, but they're giving them information. They need to stop doing it. That's what they need to stop doing. Those people need to recognize that their nieces and nephews are victims of their brother, and that their brother is lying, and that he's been doing this stuff for years, and he's still trying to do it. He's playing favoritism games on people, sitting up there telling Rick he coming home.
Look, y'all. I don't want the turban.
Now, who wants to inherit that?
I don't want to inherit the turban.
Who wants to inherit that?
Yeah.
You know, all that favoritism stuff. Everybody can like everybody. You know, everybody can get along. It ain't no pedestal here and you're down here. Everybody's equal. You know, and he needs to stop that stuff, especially starting that stuff up under children. You know, and I'm just like, he ain't changed. That's the thing. Bottom line,
he's still the same.
He hasn't.
Still the same.
He hasn't changed at all. And like you said, your thing is to get him to tell his story
about Laura.
It's not about look. It's not about none of us.
Nah,
it's not about us. We want you to tell your story. You know, that's what you was trying to get him to do. But like you said, he falls off and tries to do slick stuff.
He strings me along.
Yeah,
you know, he'll call when at a certain time when he knows he's supposed to call earlier. So he strings me along. I'm not gonna speak to him for this week. Then I'm gonna call him at a strange time, and he knows the time because I told him. And then okay, we set this up this date. No show until another week. He'll string me along. Oh, I'm gonna get you. So I'm done with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but everybody, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. To Amber Woods, to Anthony Singleton, for y'all, comments and things, and for everybody else out there that's looking and watching. Like I always say, like, share, and subscribe. If you don't subscribe, if you don't share, please like it. Thumbs up. On all the videos. To get it out there that hey, Laura Cowan stole our story. And she's out there profiting. She's been doing it over 20 years, like we said. And we'll be back next Friday for part 2.
Yeah, part 2.
And y'all stay at the end. Y'all gonna love the ending clip because we're gonna get into this ending clip too. So everyone have a great day.
Good night.
But I know that you have been impacted by sexual violence. We don't have to go into that too much, but I know that it obviously connects.
It connects
with what happened to those women. So
it does.
Can you tell me a little bit?
It does. It does. And you're so right. When you talk to people, everybody's got a story, and a story on survival too. Breast cancer, sexual survival, whatever it could be. And my story connects a lot with the girls because when I heard about it and I was in the same situation, it was like, wow, it brought back a lot of flashbacks, a lot of memories, of what happened to us while we were in captivity. And Amanda stuck out mostly because I was almost like Amanda. She was even pregnant by her captor, and so was I. So when I heard that story and I said I have to do something, even prior, if we back up a little bit, when the girls were missing, because I belonged to several organizations. One of them was Peace in the Hood, and they call themselves now Coalition for a Better Life. And we've been up and down the street every year, like the anniversary of their missing on Lorraine, looking for them. We passed by Seymour many times, had no idea they were down the street.
Yeah.
Just did not know. And we were so angry when we heard it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we could have done something, but nobody knew. Even the neighbors didn't know. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So it touched home. And then we want to bring awareness out. That's what I do when I talk to different women. I go to shelters, schools, or whatever, just to let them know they're not alone. There's other people, out there like that too. They want to get out that situation. They don't know how or who to go to. The resources is out there. So you have to kind of put your story out in front in order for them to go, oh, wow, she got out. I can too.